End of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the garage. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton is behind the camera. And we're away with another Court of Public Opinion, which, as I mentioned yesterday, is now a podcast. And lots of different venues are hosting it. I guess people have got to know to go and have a look for it, but it's called the Court of Public Opinion with Jeremy Cordeaux. It's on Facebook. It's on, which is how we do this every week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but thanks to Andy Martin, it's now on a whole range of podcast sites, wherever, what's the cliche, Pete? Well, on so-and-so, or wherever you get your favourite podcast. It's something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you go looking for it, I hope you do. I hope you do. I don't normally ring radio programs, which is a bit silly because, or a bit precious or something. But I've known John Laws for most of my adult life. I first met him when I was 16, when he was doing the drive time show on 2GB, and I was an office boy. I used to buy him his lunch, and pick up his dry cleaning and all those sort of things that office boys do. But they were wonderful days. And even then, way back then, he was only, I guess, 26, 27. He was a big star. Anyway, he's now on 2SM in Sydney, doing a 9 to 12 program. He would be 80, well, getting into his late 80s, but still going strong. Still goes to work, still does the program. Anyway, I decided that they were talking about this voice thing, as I think a lot of people in Australia doing current affairs programs are going to be inextricably doing stories on the voice, because it is one of those main, really important issues. Got to be dealt with, and let's hope dealt with properly, appropriately. I can't remember what provoked me, but it was a caller. Anyway, I rang, and I was talking to him. I didn't say anything more than, I haven't talked to you for years, John. He said, oh, well. Anyway, I won't go into that. But I was telling him what I told you the other day, that if you honestly look at all this stuff about the gap and Aboriginal deprivation, it is nonsense, because you have 700,000 people, and what would be the equivalent of about $1,200 for every man, woman and Aboriginal child in the country. That is a very handsome income. And if you've got 4 or 5 people in the house, you may have more. You are looking at a family income of $5,000 or more, tax-free, every week. Now that is not deprivation. My argument to John was, what the Aboriginal people need is not a voice. We all have a voice in Parliament through democracy. But what they really need is a forensic accountant to tell them, where is the money? Where does the money go? Anyway, he questioned that, and he said, no. Aboriginals do not get. And he's wrong. Purely, absolutely wrong. Because you can look it up just as I looked it up. I also said to him that the Aboriginal community owned or had legal title to more than 50% of the land mass, and he said, no, that's not true. Wrong. John, I'm sorry. I admire you and I've idolized you for a lot of years, but you can't dismiss the truth. You really can't. So if you're listening to Talkback Radio and you hear rubbish, respond. Get in there. Mix it up with them. It's the only way we're going to get the truth out there. I want people to look stuff up and do their own research and just see. Because most of the things I said to John, as I've said to you, are available on the government website. In fact, I think I remember giving you the web address. And a lot of it is on the Prime Minister's own website. Be that as it may. Let me wish you a happy birthday, happy wedding anniversary. It's the 10th. 1840 was the year. British Queen Victoria. She was only 20, barely 20, out of her teens, just out of her teens. Married her cousin, Albert, who was also only 20 years old. Later he became Prince Consort. They married at St James Palace, and she, if you believe all the stories, she never got over it. He died rather young, but they had lots of children, but she never got over the loss. Shirley Temple, American actress and diplomat, famous 1930s child star. Bright Eyes was one, Heidi was another. She dies of natural causes at 85. 2014 was the year. In her latter years, I talked to her probably 3 or 4 times. She was a wonderful guest. You know, one of those wonderful raconteurs. And she just opens up and talks to you as if you were a long lost friend. I really admired Shirley Temple, or Shirley Temple Black, as she was later called. Peter Allen, the Australian pop singer, songwriter, pianist, performer. I go to Rio, born Tenterfield, New South Wales, 1944. Died of AIDS, and I think it was about 1992 when he died. Robert Wagner, the American actor. It Takes a Thief, Switch, Heart to Heart. He's in NCIS endlessly. He was born in Detroit, Michigan, 1930, still going strong. Jimmy Durante, Schnozzles Durante, American vaudeville, radio, screen actor, comedian. He was born in 1893. Roy Schneider, American actor, Jaws, French Connection. He dies at 75. Roy Schneider. Boris Pasternak, the novelist, Dr. Zhivago, Nobel Prize winner of 1958, I think it was. Born in Moscow, 1890. Greg Norman, the Australian golfer, he was born in 1955. The New York Times, the New York Times still send me stuff, but they want me to subscribe. And I won't. No, I won't. They tease you, they send you stuff, and when you open it, you just get a little bit of it, enough to whet your appetite, and then you have to subscribe. Anyway, the New York Times begins. Their slogan was, all the news that's fit to print. I wonder what they'd make of the news these days, because a hell of a lot of it ain't fit to print. It was 1897. Tom and Jerry cartoons created by Hanna-Barbera. Debut. It was 1940 on MGM. Tom and Jerry. William Hanna and Joseph Barbera. Arthur Miller, American playwright. Death of a Salesman, The Crucible, and of course, married to Marilyn Monroe. Can't imagine what she saw in Arthur Miller. I'm sure she never read one of his books or went to one of his plays, I don't know. 2005, dies of a heart attack. He was battling bladder cancer, 89 years of age. Well, dear boy, if one thing doesn't get you, another one will. One more, 1937, Roberta Flack, the American pop vocalist. The first time ever I saw your face. Beautiful song. Killing Me Softly with his song. Another one of her hits. Born this day in 1937. Anyway, if it's your birthday, happy birthday. Joan, thank you for your comment. Now, where does this come from? I guess it must have been earlier in the week. Joan, I think you've nailed it. I do. Joan says, why, if the Aboriginals got on very well without us for 60,000 years, why is it that they can't now? Well, you're perfectly right. Why don't we put that proposition to Lydia Thorpe? I don't know. And I'll tell you what, here is a worthwhile referendum question if you're looking for one. Do you agree that all Australians, regardless of their colour or their race or their ethnicity, everyone should be treated equally in every way and in every respect? No one should receive a benefit or advantage over anyone else where that advantage is based on race. Why don't we run that up the flagpole? Why don't we run that up the flagpole? Thank you, Joan. Good question. Do you agree that all Australians, regardless of their colour or their race or their ethnicity, everyone should be treated equally in every way, in every respect? No one should receive a benefit or advantage over anyone else based on race. Very good. I have some very interesting people who watch this little podcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In Victoria, the Labor government is quite forthcoming in announcing, when was this? Wednesday, I think. They announced that in state schools they will be openly supporting the yes vote for the referendum on the voice. Now, I don't think it's the responsibility or right of government to indoctrinate, particularly indoctrinate our children. One might say, any more than they perhaps do already. Wouldn't it be better to discuss both sides of the issue? Discuss, don't badger. Discuss both sides of the issue. Pluses and minuses, pros and cons. Then again, I guess the ABC, impartial and independent, remember, they are blatantly campaigning for the voice to Parliament. Now, I reckon public institutions, schools, universities, the public broadcaster, should be impartial and above party politics or having an axe to grind. You see, on commercial radio or a program such as this, one can have an opinion, a stance, take a side. Lydia Thorpe, the Greens spokesperson on Indigenous Affairs, has quit the party, as you would have known, this week. She will now sit on the crossbench, which, with the Teals, must be getting more cross by the day. Lydia Thorpe will no longer be representing the people who she swore to represent. The people she has sworn to represent. The people of Victoria. The people of Victoria. She's going to be representing the sovereign blacks of Australia, as she calls them. Now, I've got no idea what sovereign blacks actually means, but really, she should resign from Parliament. When you get elected or chosen to be a senator, you have the responsibility to represent the entire state, not just one section of it, and particularly not one small radical section of one small section of it. The system needs to be adjusted to cope with people like Lydia. Lydia says, we are at war. I reported this week before last, I think. We are at war. With whom, Lydia? Us, Aboriginals, whites? What happens, by the way, if you win the war. Have you seen The Mouse That Roared? Pete, have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't. But
Peter Sellers.
no,
The Mouse That Roared.
I have seen what's happened in Africa, however.
Well, a little tiny obscure country somewhere was really hard up, so it decided to declare war on the United States. And they declared war in the morning and surrendered in the afternoon. Because they knew from experience the Americans would arrive, and so would the largesse, and so would Hollywood, and all sorts of good things. The Mouse That Roared, look it up, wonderful movie. Anyway, let's say, Lydia, in all seriousness, let's say you win the war, okay? You win the war, and you have to take us all prisoner. Huh? Have you thought this through? You have to take us all prisoner. You have to house us and feed us and look after us. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Aboriginals, you, won't have any welfare, no sit-down money, no benefits. What will the victors do with their victory? How can she be at war with the country, including, of course, the Senate, and still be paid by the taxpayer to sit in the Senate? How is that possible? And if everyone thinks it's a joke, why have we, I was going to say, why have we elected a joke? But I suppose we do that occasionally, don't we? She wishes to go to war with Australia. Would somebody please arrest this woman? I thought she was representing the people, all the people of Victoria. She should resign quickly and then put on a uniform, arm herself, and start her war. Look, I tell you, I'm all for eccentrics, but I don't think they should be on the public payroll. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Anyway, she says she won't vote for the Voice. The Aboriginal community seems to be as divided as most other communities on the whole thing. But we're being told everything that the Voice is not. Prime Minister was doing it the other evening, I saw him. But they avoid telling us just exactly what it is. It will do nothing for Aboriginal domestic violence, education, employment, drunkenness. Which of these problems will your Voice fix, Prime Minister? The ABC is, as I said, blatantly campaigning for the Voice. I'll tell you this, if the Voice does get up, I sincerely hope that it doesn't, it will not be a voice for Aboriginal people. It will be a voice for the Aboriginal intellectuals, activists, white activists, that crowd, you know, with their Orders of Australia and their stories about the stolen generation and their honorary doctorates. They, because I think they are driving a lot of this, will in fact be the Voice. Now, will we, in a democracy, be willing to listen to that voice? Frankly, I think we should listen to all voices. But if you believe in democracy, 3% of the population cannot dictate anything to the majority of people. I firmly believe that. You have a lovely weekend, ladies and gentlemen, and wherever you're viewing the Court of Public Opinion, I hope that you're going to be back with us on Monday. Believe in yourself. I'm Jeremy Cordo. Peter Clayton and I will see you next week. Bye for now.